Now, Kevin, my question to you is, how confident are you that Joe Burrow can lead the Bengals to another future Super Bowl?
I'm very confident. I think that Joe Burrow has the skill set. I mean, I've said this 100 times in the last couple of weeks. It's not just how he plays on the field, it's how he carries himself, it's how he leads this team, it's the mentality that he carries throughout the entire game and throughout the entire season. We saw a kid come out of LSU as one of the greatest college quarterbacks, if not the greatest college quarterback to ever throw a single pass in all of college sports. That used to be a title held by Tim Tebow. That used to be a title held by Cam Newton and all these other players. And then this kid from Ohio State transfers to LSU and then crushes every statistical record that could possibly be imagined and then caps with the national championship. He comes into the league as a number one pick to a dying franchise that hasn't had any relevance, if not any success, in the past 20, 30 years. And he tears his ACL. Boom, week 10. Oh my God, the Bengals got a lot to deal with. This kid's already hurt. Jesus Christ, they got to find a way to go and build something over there to help him stay up. Then the draft comes. They draft Jamar Chase instead of an offensive lineman. There was controversy there that Kyle and I dictated that said that was going to come back to bite them, which it did. But Jamar Chase panned out a lot better than anybody thought. So overall, it kind of evened itself out to an extent. But they have the weapons, they have the coaching, they have the defense. Joe Burrow is a talented, effective, and efficient quarterback in the National Football League and can make every throw long, short, coverage, throwing open, back shoulder, up in the flat. I mean, we've seen it. Mobility in the pocket to stay aware and present to extend plays with his feet. And he's not the most mobile, and he's doing a lot of that because his offensive line sucks. As long as he stays healthy, Cincinnati is posed for a whole lot of success for the next 5 to 10 years if they can keep him healthy. And I say that with the utmost confidence because that whole team is young. Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, all in their 20s. Joe Mixon in his 20s. If you could just give him a little bit of protection, just a little bit, just a little bit subpar average or just average, because we got to say, that was enough for me to rate the Bengals offensive line as the worst offensive line in football. 19 sacks in the playoffs, absolutely unheard of. So they're definitely the worst offensive line after I saw what I saw. But Joe Burrow can do it all, man. I'm telling you, Joseph, that's a bad man, and he earned a seat at the table.
Kevin, I remember we were talking about this before we started recording, and I remember you made a mention of you think that the Bengals could potentially be a dynasty from getting multiple Super Bowl titles because of their offensive line issues. Like, you think that their offensive line is that porous that it's holding them from potentially getting multiple Super Bowl titles, which I'm in full agreement with you on this one. Now, as far as Joe Burrow is concerned, I have no doubt in my mind that Joe Burrow has the skill set to be able to get the Bengals back to a Super Bowl. And when I look at this year in particular, Joe had a phenomenal year. And granted, he had a comeback player of the year type season, and that's why he was awarded that award during the NFL awards ceremony a couple of days ago. I mean, 34 touchdowns throughout the regular season. But to me, I saw leaps and bounds in Joe's skills at the end of the season, because I remember there was a 2-game stretch in particular where Joe was lighting it up, where he damn near threw for 1,000 yards in back-to-back games. You never see that, especially from a second-year quarterback, unless you're maybe talking about someone like Patrick Mahomes, where he's given the green light to just throw it all day. And Joe's got the pieces around him to make this work, because I think that the connection that he has with Jamar Chase, I think it's only going to grow exponentially as the years go on. And then hopefully they're able to retain some pieces like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, because when you have that type of wide receiver core to work with, it's going to make Joe's life a lot easier, because he can be able to rely on those guys to make big plays going down the stretch in the foreseeable future. The biggest thing, though, with the Bengals is protecting him. And it all starts up on front. Kevin, I know you made a mention of this just a few minutes ago, but if they don't get that worked out, I don't think that they could ever get back to a Super Bowl. I mean, that's how like drastic this is. If they're not able to fix it, it's going to be a while before we see Joe Burrow in another Super Bowl, just because you can't take those number of hits consistently. I mean, granted, he took 70 sacks this year, and yet even despite the fact that they were able to make the Super Bowl, that's not something that you can bank on moving forward. So they have to find a way to be able to find some competent offensive linemen to at least cut those sacks by at least 35 or 40%. I'm not saying that you go from giving up 70 sacks to like giving up like 20. That's too big of a drop unless they make significant changes on the offensive line immediately. But typically those things take a couple years to work out. But I mean, as far as Joe goes, Joe is just a solid quarterback, and he is going to continue to grow. And even despite the fact that he didn't like blow me away with his individual performances in the playoffs, meaning like he didn't go out there and throw for like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. But he did enough to show me that he puts his team in a position to win because he limits the amount of mistakes that he makes in big moment games. And even if he does make mistakes, he's able to rectify those and be able to come up with clutch drives and get some points on the board for Cincinnati when they need it the most. So Joe Burrow is really kind of setting himself in a great position moving forward. He's right in the mix with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, as some of the best quarterbacks in the AFC as far as the younger quarterbacks go. And Joe could possibly be one of the best quarterbacks within the foreseeable future as long as he stays healthy. And hopefully Cincinnati understands what they need to do as far as protecting him goes, because that's their number one asset. And if he's getting knocked down consistently like he was this year and last year, that could shorten a man's career. And hopefully Cincinnati understands that and they try to fix that sooner rather than later. Because, I mean, this guy could end up in Canton one day. He's off to a great start. He's already been to a Super Bowl within his first 2 seasons. And I think if they continue to build around him and they build up that offensive line, I think that Cincinnati has a chance to go to multiple Super Bowls. But they have to work on the offensive line because you got someone like Joe Burrow back there. He makes things happen. And the swagger and the confidence that he possesses, you don't want to see that go by the wayside because he doesn't have faith in his offensive line. And unfortunately, we've seen some players lose confidence in their skills and their overall play because they're just guys on the offensive line who aren't doing their job. Hopefully that doesn't turn out to be the case. But the way that I see it, I think Joe Burrow is going to be back. I don't see a scenario where he never gets back to another Super Bowl. He's too good. And despite the fact that he's only 25 years old, this man is really kind of setting himself apart as a top-tier quarterback. And I think it's going to be sooner rather than later that we'll see him in another Super Bowl.